A ceasefire with Hezbollah is premature, and Israel will need to attack Iran to stop its multiple proxies from destabilizing the region. That's the word from former British Forces Commander Richard Kemp, who told ILTV's Mayan Hoffman that the head of the snake is in Iran.
So I have with me here Colonel Richard Kemp, a man who has spent most of his life fighting terrorism, fighting insurgency. We're here at the Jewish National Fund USA conference, where Richard is a big supporter and has been a speaker here at the event. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. It's great to be here and great to see you.
Thank you. Now, we are hitting about 13 months plus into this war. We've been battling in the northern front and the southern front. Give me an idea of whether or not you believe that the state of Israel is winning the war.
There's no doubt the state of Israel is winning the war, and let's not forget, it's not just in the north and in the south. It's also on a total of 7 different battlefronts, as well as the political front, which is a very, very difficult part of the conflict as well. But there's no question, and particularly in Gaza and in Lebanon, Israel is winning. The IDF have seriously damaged Hamas to the extent that Hamas is no longer able to present a significant threat to Israel. They've also written down Hezbollah to the extent that I believe Hezbollah is no longer capable of launching large-scale rocket barrages against Israel today. The job is not done in either of those two countries, but the work is well in hand, and Israel is most certainly winning it.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about a ceasefire, certainly with Lebanon, and even potentially getting some of those hostages home and ending the war in Gaza. In your estimation, we're winning, but as you said, the work is not done. So how much longer do we need to fight until we can effectively have that ceasefire agreement?
I think the talk of a ceasefire in Lebanon now is premature, and I've no doubt it's being driven partly by the Biden administration, which wants to see some kind of result before Biden leaves office. And of course, Israel has little choice other than to, as far as it feels it must, to go along with that. So I do think it's premature. There may be potentially a temporary ceasefire in Lebanon, I suspect, if there's sufficient pressure by the US on Israel to do that. But that's not the end of the story. Israel needs to do much more damage to Hezbollah, and it effectively needs to create a situation where Hezbollah becomes demilitarized as a longer-term objective, and there is a very significant buffer zone between the Israeli border and certainly the southern part of Lebanon, to the extent that there is no longer a direct threat to the residents of northern Israel who can then return home. That is not necessarily going to happen overnight, and it's certainly not going to be something that relies upon something like the United Nations to achieve. That's got to be something that's imposed by Israel.
Right, and I understand a lot of the hesitation with the ceasefire is that Israel might not have then the access to go in and to take care of business when it needs to. Now, I want to move to Iran because in the end of the day, Hezbollah, Hamas, these are all just proxies of the Iranian regime. You've been very vocal about the need to have a U.S. administration that would support Israel in its attack against Iran, be able to take out the power of Iran. Do you feel that the Trump administration will be able to achieve that goal or work with Israel to achieve that goal?
All 7 of the battlefronts Israel's fighting on are driven by Iran, and therefore Iran is effectively the head of the octopus, which does need to be cut off. Somehow it's got to be cut off. Israel can't do that without the support of the US. It can inflict severe damage on the Iranian regime and the Iranian nuclear program, but it can't do that without the backing of the US. In the ideal world, I think the US would also go in and attack Iran with Israel. Even under President Trump, I think that's unlikely to happen. But what I do think is going to happen is the handcuffs are going to be taken off Israel to allow it the freedom to do what it needs to do and inflict significant damage on Iran, so that Iran is no longer in a position to run all of these different proxies around the region against Israel and against the West and against other Middle Eastern countries, and also ceases its nuclear program, which presents a threat not just to Israel, but to the whole of the Middle East and the world.
So final question. We're here at the Jewish National Fund USA conference where there are many, many pro-Israel supporters, and JNF, of course, is doing a lot of work in the north, in the south, and across all of Israel. Why is it so important to have the Jewish community here in the United States supporting Israel during this difficult time?
Well, the JNF is a remarkable organization. I don't think there's anything else like it in the world. It's done phenomenal work for the state of Israel over many years and is continuing to do so now, both in major projects, large-scale projects, which will involve, I'm sure in due course, will involve helping with the reconstruction of the devastated areas in the south and in the north. And that's extremely important for Israel and for Jews everywhere, because, of course, many Jews who don't live in Israel have a great deal of affinity for Israel. So it's really important, the work they're doing. Phenomenal work. And it deserves to be supported by everybody who supports Israel. And I would hope that would include most Jews in the United States of America.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.